Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Darian Jones. I'm the Caregiver Education and Digital Specialist at Care Partners. We're back today with another Hot Topic Live segment. We have a very special guest. Karen Dean from the Senior Resource Guide is here. She's going to be sharing with us all about who the Senior Resource Guide is, what they do, what kind of resources they have, and how you can access it. We're going to be touching on all of that and more in just a couple of minutes. Real quick, I wanted to give a couple of updates about Care Partners. We are continuing to have all of our in-person programming on hold for the moment, but we're providing a ton of online caregiving resources, including Common Ground Support Group, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can find all the information on our website for that on how to join. We're also providing Gathering at Your Place, which is a really fun, interactive video conference for people with early to moderate Alzheimer's or dementia. Gathering Place is normally an in-person program that we try to get all of the fun elements and bring it online and into your home. So you can also find information about that online. And real quick, we have a caregiver conference coming up August 29th. So just in a couple of weeks. And that information is on our website as well under the events calendar, Empowering the Caregiver Conference. We would love to have all of you join and participate. We have 4 sessions lined up, 3 really great speakers, and then we're going to have a Q&A resource panel at the end. We're going to bring in all of the speakers that we had at the event, plus a few extras. So you can have all of your answers or questions and answers there for that. It'll be a really great time. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the topic today, which is all about the Senior Resource Guide. So with that, I'm going to introduce our guest. Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hi, Darian. Thank you so much for having me today.
I know that we're so excited that you guys were able to make it and really share about all the different resources that you guys are offering right now. So before we do that, do you want to just tell us who you are and a little bit, just a really quick overview about the Senior Resource Guide?
Sure, I would love to be able to do that. My journey started as a caregiver, and I was caregiving for my grandmother. My father was an only child, and he and my mom moved to Dallas out of the Houston area, where his family was in Brazoria County, my grandmother, back when I was in college. Now, my grandmother and I were always besties anyway, but as it turned out, at the time I didn't realize I was actually caregiving, although we spoke every single day, and I was the one that would get the call, help, I need you to help me get closed caption off my remote control. I never really thought about that as caregiving. To me, this was just normal conversation. But I realized that I had a true passion for helping the elderly. And at the time, I was in my 30s, young family, didn't really think much about it other than I knew that this was a mission for me and calling. So I became very actively involved as a community activist here in Fort Bend County, and was joined Fort Bend Seniors Meals on Wheels, which was the only senior service provider at the time. Fast forward, still providing care, and I found that with some of my other community involvement, I started being asked questions like, Karen, my mom she lives in Needville, Texas, and she's on a fixed income, and she needs someone to help her with her income tax. Do you know anybody? I can do that. I had no idea who to call. So I would get a call from someone who would say, Karen, my dad is going to need periodontal work. And I'm like, what is periodontal work? Okay, I can help. Anyway, so I began to see this need that other people were finding themselves in a similar situation for me. And as most caregivers will experience at some point in their caregiver journey, a major life event occurred with my grandmother. And she was in the hospital and quickly realized that we needed to retro her bathroom. And so all of a sudden, I had to become an expert on aging in place. Well, my husband and I were coming home from a big gala event here in Fort Bend one night, and we just sold interest. We were in our early 40s, just sold our interest in our previous business, and found ourselves in a very wonderful position that I wish everybody could be in, and that was we could have retired at the time. And this is a true story. We were actually sitting across from each other after the event, taking shoes off. And he said, do you have any thoughts about what we might do next? And I said, I do actually. With all of the questions that I get asked, I'm finding other caregivers are on a similar journey as as I am. And I want to put together a one-sheeter. If nothing else, just something, of resources to help all these people who are calling me and all this amazing information that I'm gathering. And he said, if you're experiencing it and other people are experiencing it, do you think there's a greater good, a greater need for this? Should we create a business model around this? And I said, you know what, let's do that. So fast forward, within the next week, we had a company started. We recruited my sister and brother-in-law. It became a family event with the intent that we would create a resource publication just for Fort Bend County. Now, I should have known that that wasn't going to be where it was going to end up, because within a very short period of time, and I mean very short period of time, all my family in Brazoria County said, oh, no. You can't just do Fort Bend. You also have to include Brazoria and Galveston. We also had friends up on the north side of Houston who said, hey, we need resources up here too. And it occurred to me at the time that if other caregivers were like me, they were looking for resources that were local. I don't think that's changed one bit. So we trisected the city of Houston into 3 areas. And within the first year, we had partnered with Kroger Pharmacy to be our distribution channel. And we had 3 publications, a Southwest, a Southeast, and a North publication. And the Senior Resource Guide was launched, all stemming from me being on a caregiver journey and finding out that I wasn't alone, that there were a lot of other caregivers out there who found themselves in a similar situation.
That's actually a really interesting story about how you got started. That's really interesting. My next question was going to be, I guess you sort of touched on that, how long you guys have been around, and then how things have changed over the past, I have written down 20 years.
20 years.
Can you?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
So one of the things I can tell you as a caregiver, and then someone who is, I'm a notorious researcher. So for your caregivers that are listening, who are in the baby boomer generation, they can relate to this. We are notorious researchers. And so as we have aged to the point where we're providing care for a parent or a grandparent in my case, and then now that we're of the age, we're always out there researching. So something that the way people would consume or look for resources 20 years ago, some of that hasn't changed. It's just migrated into a little bit different, morphed into a little bit different way. Let me give you an example. It used to be when we first launched, people would try to find resources for friends, family, church, and the library. I know it seems like a long time ago, and there's still libraries out there, but the libraries. So we provided copies to all the libraries in the greater Houston general area. That hasn't changed. With the exception of that, now with baby boomers being caregivers and also being the ones that care is being provided for, a lot more research is done online. So we're still going after those social connections, all right? So friends, family, right? Instead of doing it necessarily where you might see them on the street or sitting out in the front yard or, at a party or you're conversing at maybe a birthday party or something. Now we're doing it through social media, right? So we're doing it through Facebook. We're doing it through Twitter, through Instagram, Nextdoor. So all of these social media platforms have allowed people to stay and to still get the validation and to ask the questions in a very safe environment, but rather than doing it one-on-one, and right now during COVID-19, this is really true, online. People are still going to libraries to look for information, but provided to the libraries. So now we're out there available not only through print, but we also have a digital edition online, which is a duplicate of our print edition for all of our markets. We've actually expanded into other Texas markets as well. But so the need has grown. The way people consume information is a little different now than it was 20 years ago. And the need is growing every single day, especially now with all of the information that's coming out about aging and ageism, and with COVID-19, all of a sudden it is bringing something that before people really didn't want to talk a lot about unless it was happening to you, and that is aging, aging in place, what happens to those who are in their 80s, those kinds of needs. Now, all of a sudden, it's become more socially acceptable to have that conversation. So resources are in desperate need, and people are out there just trying to find them anywhere they can.
Exactly. I was about to say that's very similar to Care Partners. We're all about providing that support, education, and resources. And we know now more than ever, the need for these resources and support is at the greatest highs. Next, we're going to talk about what resources does the guide cover, and are there any that you guys are unable to provide?
Oh, that's a really good question. First, as far as any resources we're not able to provide, not that I've ever run across. So I'm not trying to be cocky in any way. I'm sure there are resources, but here's something I can share with you as a caregiver and somebody who, as I said, I'm a notorious researcher myself. The second thing is that I'm not bashful. I guess you can tell. So I don't have any problem asking somebody, who do you know that may know somebody who can provide this type of help? So if there's a resource out there that we don't know about, what we do know is we know people who have that information available. As far as what the Senior Resource Guide covers, we cover from senior housing, home care, home health. We cover some treatment and prevention resources inside the guide, and all of these are also duplicated on our website. Some are within the digital edition, and then some are separate resources. We have an amazing search tool on our website. We include information about final planning. That's not something that you typically talk about with your loved one, especially as a caregiver, until a major life event occurs. We have some relax and restoration, restorative type of articles, lots of tips and techniques and toolkits and checklists, things that caregivers might not realize, that, especially if they're long distance caregiving, they might not think about. We have resources for those who are in need of financial assistance, or who are looking for someone who can come in and help put together a will. These things that as someone is going through their caregiver journey, they don't really know what they don't know until they're presented with something and someone says, do you have, we need this from you, can you provide? And then all of a sudden you start looking. And if there's something in our guide that we don't have, then our team is online through our Facebook, as well as we can email and phone call. As a matter of fact, I get phone calls every day. That is the most fun part of what I do, is I get to talk to the caregivers who call and say, I need help. And then I help them walk through what they think they need and then what they really might need after all. We also have a calendar online. I don't know if you know that, but we have an amazing calendars, 2 different channels, one for elder care professionals, which are more networking and what have you, but we have the most amazing calendar of events. We cover 5 markets for caregivers. So whether it's, an event coming up like your caregiver conference, this is something that's an activity that you might find on our calendar. Our resource guides are chock full of information.
That's one of the questions that I was actually about to go to next. Or we'll touch on this first, and then we're going to get into all the different types of things that you all cover. But is there something that most people might not know about the Senior Resource Guide that you'd like to share?
Well, I probably mentioned one of them, and that is our calendar of events. Unless you visit our website and you're looking for an event, or you happen to Google an event and it takes you to our website, most people probably don't realize about our calendar. That I think if you've ever seen a copy of the Senior Resource Guide, whether the digital or in print, most people probably don't realize that it is designed, it's purposefully designed. In other words, we have color-coded sections because we've approached this with the way my experience was, and then having everybody in our office contribute. So if you're a caregiver, you're already anxious about things, you're probably already stressed. You may be angry, going through some anger because of frustration. So we want to make the our resources available in such a way that they're consumable to those that are probably actively aging themselves. Our fonts are larger. We don't use a lot of serif fonts with the little curlies on the end of it. We want to make it really easy to read. Everything is color coded. Everything is compartmentalized so that if you are looking for one thing specifically, we have a table of contents. Maybe you just need the quick phone numbers because you know the information that you're looking for, and so we have an index in the back. Our website is designed very much the same way, so that if you're looking for something, all you have to do is put it in the search engine and bring it up. Something else that people probably don't know about our publication is when it comes to home care and home health, we keep a chart so that it's a very quick, easy reference for people to be able to look and say, okay, so here are 10 different companies that provide. So who maybe provides respite care, or who provides caregivers who speak a foreign language? You're able to quickly identify all of that.
Yeah, you touched on one of the things I was going to ask, and that was,
Okay.
it sounds like there's everything and all in between for caregiving topics and resources and all of that. And one of the questions I have is it able to tell us what is ADRC and the AAA, and is it just the guides can help explain all these different acronyms? And can you just tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to. As a matter of fact, Care Partners' mission and ability to be able to help educate caregivers is something very similar to what we do, because caregiving is a process. It is a journey, and you can't expect to know everything all at once. And so part of what we do is we provide informative articles. As a matter of fact, there's we go through and we're enhancing and changing the articles out, and kind of as new information becomes available, then we present that. So to your question about the AAA and the ADRC, in case, as a matter of fact, I will tell you that this is one of my favorite resources that I share pretty much with anybody that I speak with, no matter where they call me, whether they're calling me and it's a case manager from Methodist Hospital and they're discharging a family to Rhode Island and they need help, or it's somebody who's calling me from Fort Worth, Texas, or Houston, or wherever. The Area Agency on Aging is an amazing branch of the government. It's funded federally through certain congressional acts federally, and the money comes into Texas, and then Texas adds some money to it, and then that money is sent out to different regions throughout the state. This is true all over the United States. So the Area Agency on Aging, in our case, and I've been on that board 20 years now, quite some time, we typically fund Meals on Wheels. We do some home repair for those who can't afford to pay for home care, in-home care. We can assist with doing that. And I don't really know how an ADRC, which stands for Aging and Disabilities Resource Center, I don't really know how it got started, but I can tell you that kind of what I saw is that within the state of Texas, the AAA money, the Area Agency on Aging money, tends to go to people. You have to be 60 and over to qualify. So what happens? AARP used to qualify, 50 years old as a senior. So what if you have a 55-year-old who's disabled, who needs resources? Well, that money and those resources might have been through a different department, if you will, through the Council of Governments is what they're called. So Harris County has their Council of Government, and then you have the Council of Governments through or Area Agency on Aging, and then the 12 surrounding counties in South Texas, whether it's Montgomery County or Waller or Walker or San Jacinto and Fort Bend, Galveston, Brazoria, and those surrounding are part of the Houston-Galveston Area Agency on Aging. So this ADRC is kind of a hybrid. What happened is they decided that, and I don't know who they were, but it was decided that an ADRC would, in most cases, absorb the Area Agency on Aging, and this amazing new department would be formed that would allow resources to be shared easier. So now the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. money for the Area Agency on Aging is still funneled specifically for Area Agency on Aging. But now you have stakeholders like for Barriers for Free Independent Living, Texana, if you're familiar with Texana for mental health. So now you have all these stakeholders that are all part of this great committee. And as resources are needed, it's easier to share, information going back and forth. Got to know who the Area Agency on Aging, or ADRC, Aging and Disabilities Resource Center, is for your area, and you can find that on the Texas Health and Human Services website. Or you can go to the Senior Resource Guide at srgtexas.com, or look in our guide, because we have the information on what they are and how to use them.
That was some great advice and tips, and thank you for taking the time to explain that. Can you think of something, or would you like to share something, or one item that every caregiver needs in their toolkit?
Okay. Patience. It is, it's easy to say until you have experienced being a caregiver and you're in that journey. But patience is definitely something. I guess it's also important. I'll talk a little bit more about the toolkit. A couple of things come to mind. It's really important to have a strong support system. And that can be a friend. It could be clergy. It could be somebody that you talk to every time you go to the grocery store. It could be somebody online. It could be your family. But it is really important to have a strong support system when you're a caregiver, because it is physically and mentally taxing. And you may think, I got this covered. No problem. I can do this, and I can work, and I can do this, and I can take care of my kids or my grandkids, and take care of mom or dad or my aunt and uncle or my in-laws. But you don't realize the toll that it takes on you physically, emotionally, and mentally. You have to be able to have someone that you can turn to share what's going on in your life and the frustrations that you're feeling. And I don't know where to turn for doing this. So maybe it's a support group, so maybe it's like Common Ground, through care partners. Need to have a very strong support system. As far as actual tools, I probably don't know if, and I may get my hand slapped for doing this because we haven't told anybody yet about this, but the Senior Resource Guide is launching a caregiver toolkit in November, a digital caregiver toolkit. So this really is top of mind, and it's kind of a culmination of 20 years as to what people are asking for. And whether you're a new caregiver just starting on your caregiver journey, or you're an experienced caregiver, or someone who's been like me, who's been doing it for years, there's always going to be ups and downs. And if you continue being a caregiver for somebody, the challenges and the questions and your needs don't get less. They're not fewer of them. They become more. So I'm really excited about us being able to do that. One of the things that I can tell you that might be really important to have, and see if you can find, is a list of acronyms. So I will tell you that the first time, this is probably back in the 80s, when my grandmother was being discharged from Clear Lake Regional. And I never will forget the case manager coming in going, just hold her paper, So, and I'm sorry, and you're the granddaughter? Yes, okay. Well, just know that the doctor is we're discharging your grandmother this afternoon, and she's going to be discharged to a SNF. And I'm looking at her going, SNF? Okay. I was too embarrassed. I mean, this is, a medical professional. I had no idea what a SNF was. So, who do you turn to ask, what's a SNF? An SNF, a skilled nursing facility. That's when I realized, okay, there's this own set of lingo that I need to be familiar with. So part of what I do, I told you, not bashful about asking. I really wasn't. I actually went back to the desk where the nurses were and leaned over, true story, and asked the nurse, do you mind? You mentioned SNF. Can you tell me what that is? And she was, that's a skilled nursing facility. I'm sorry, I didn't know that you didn't realize that. Well, I forget, people aren't familiar with that. So put together a list of terms, or if you hear something, do not be afraid to ask. I'm sorry, wait. Could you go back a second? You You mentioned a POA. What's a POA? Oh, okay. All right, gotcha. So that would probably be the first one.
That was great. I think we're going to leave it with this last question.
Okay.
Where can I or anyone at home pick up a copy of the Senior Resource Guide?
That one's easy, easy, easy. Now, if you'd asked me this pro-COVID, I would have probably told you walk into any pharmacy, wherever you get your prescriptions, H-E-B, Kroger, Walgreens, and in the pharmacy department, they still have them. They have copies there. It's free. The printed guide is free to get. But really and truly, the easiest way to get it right now is to go online. Go to our srgtexas.com, and you can use the search engine, or if you go over to In the Know tab and click down, you'll be able to find a link to our digital editions, and then you just pick which area. There's a map that says, oh, okay, I'm in the Woodlands. I'm going to be in the North Edition. Or if you want a copy mailed to you, then all you have to do is go online and request it, or you can call our office, and we're happy to provide you a copy. As a caregiver, or if you are an actively aging adult and would like a copy.
Well, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to share with us all about the Senior Resource Guide. They are a wonderful resource. They cover all the different areas of Greater Houston, and like you've been saying the whole time, it's color coded. It's so easy to read, and there's literally so many things in there that you can contact and learn from. And so it is a wonderful, wonderful resource that we really encourage you all to take a look at, and head over to their website and just take a look at them, because they really do help. And then I guess with that, any last things that you want to say, I think we're going to close it out. So we really appreciate you being here, Karen, and of course, everyone at home watching. We really appreciate you all too. We'll be back soon with some more hot topics.
And thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thanks to Care Partners for all that you do and all the caregivers that you help.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Seriously, you guys too. We are so grateful for our partnership with you all, and you're all about the resources and connections, and so are we. So we think it's a
Check
wonderful.
out our caregiver toolkit in November.
That's a really exciting. I was going to say that's a very exciting thing to be on the lookout for.
Don't tell them I told you, though.
It's the best kept not secret.
Yeah, best kept not secret.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We'll be back very soon with some more. We'll actually be back tomorrow with another topic. So we hope to see you all then. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.